BPM praise, worship songs, inspirational Bible verses, food for souls, streamer. Like, share, subscribe.
God's grace verse. 2 Corinthians 12-9 is a verse from the New Testament in which the Apostle Paul shares a personal moment with God. In this verse, Paul recounts a conversation with God in response to his thorn in the flesh, a persistent problem or affliction that he had been seeking relief from. The verse, "But he said to me, my grace is sufficient for you, for my power is made perfect in weakness. Therefore, I will boast all the more gladly of my weaknesses, so that the power of Christ may rest upon me." Context. Paul is addressing a challenge he faced, described earlier in the chapter as a thorn in the flesh. This could refer to a physical ailment, a spiritual struggle, or a constant source of trouble. He had pleaded with God 3 times to remove it, but God responded by telling him that his grace was sufficient and that God's power is most clearly seen in human weakness. Key themes. 1. Grace is sufficient. God assures Paul that his grace, God's unmerited favor and strength, is enough to sustain him through his suffering, no matter the difficulty. God's grace is adequate for all needs. 2. Power in weakness. God tells Paul that his power is made perfect in weakness. This paradox highlights a key theme of Christianity. Human weakness allows God's power to be more evident in moments of struggle. Believers rely more fully on God's strength. 3. Boasting in weakness. Paul concludes that he will boast in his weaknesses, meaning he will openly acknowledge them and rely on God's strength. This is a theme that reverses worldly values, where weakness is often seen as shameful. But in God's kingdom, it is through weakness that his power is made most apparent. Theological significance. Humility and dependence on God. The passage teaches Christians to embrace their weaknesses and challenges as opportunities for God's power to be displayed. Instead of trying to overcome difficulties by their own strength, believers are encouraged to rely on God's grace and power. Spiritual growth. The verse shows that difficulties and suffering can lead to greater spiritual growth when humans acknowledge their limitations. They become more dependent on God's sufficiency. Application. 2 Corinthians 12-9 encourages Christians to find peace in their struggles, trusting that God's grace will be enough. It reminds them that weakness is not a curse, but a space where God's power can shine brightly. It can also comfort those who face difficulties, reassuring them that their limitations do not hinder God's ability to work through them. Conclusion. 2 Corinthians 12-9 is a powerful reminder of the sufficiency of God's grace and the surprising strength found in weakness. Paul's experience teaches Christians that their weaknesses are not obstacles, but opportunities for God's power to be revealed. By boasting in weaknesses, believers demonstrate their complete dependence on God's grace, which is always sufficient to carry them through any trial or affliction. Thank you for watching. Please subscribe, comment, and like for more.